Hello, fellow human. Hope you guys have a great day, and let's read some r/idon'tworkherelady stories. To the first one. How long have you worked here, dear? I've loved reading all your stories, so I decided to share my personal story that fortunately happens to be the sweeter than most here. The year was 2011, and I was working at a Chick-fil-A in my hometown. One day, I wanted to look for a particular game at GameStop before my evening shift, so I put on that maroon polo and slacks combo and left my house early. It was a Sunday and fairly busy as I tore through the used section for my RPG of choice. However, not finding what I wanted, I wound up just stepping back and people watched for a while to kill the time. Enter old lady, maybe around 60 years old. She walks straight to the Wii section with a piece of paper in her hand, but in less than a minute seemed to grow concerned as she looks at her paper, then the shelves, and back to the paper. A quick glance around revealed that both workers in view were busy, so I stepped forward to offer my help. Stepping just inside the edge of her vision. Me, hello, can I help you, ma'am? Old lady flinches for a moment before recovering. Oh yes, I can't seem to figure out which ones should I get. It turned out that she was confused by the different Just Dance games that were available, and I was happy to inform her that the only true difference was the selection of songs available. She picked the newest game because why not, and asked if I had any suggestions for games to give a then 8-year-old, for which I'm fairly certain I pointed to the Mario Galaxy games. We chatted for a minute about her family, old lady smiling now that she was through the minor ordeal. As she turned to go to the register, she said, "Thank you for helping me. So how long have you worked here, dear?" I tilted my head in confusion before recalling that I was wearing what could be seen as work casual clothes. I don't work here, ma'am. I point to the CFA logo on my sleeve to emphasize my point. Oh, I'm so sorry I took up your time. Thank you again. She gave me that shoulder squeeze that only sweet old ladies can before placing herself in line. I didn't get what I wanted, but I wound up getting what I needed. A pleasant moment to get me through yet another monotonous shift of fast food fun. What a lovely, wholesome story. That made me feel good too. The second story, What a Mess, Act 1. Gather around, guys and dolls, as I spin the beginnings of a lovely tale of karma, an angry anti-hero, and not just one, nor two, but three, yes, three masses, all featuring the same Cantosaurus Rex. Small world, right? Originally, I was just going to tell my significant other about the sweet karmic justice, but then I realized I'd have to re-explain the drama to explain why I cared so much. So I figured I could post it on here and he would probably lurk and find it later. Hi, babe. I just remember it strongly and sometimes I get a little overzealous with details. Mess number 1 begins with our anti-heroine, Moi, walking around the grocery store 2 weeks ago. As I've been mistaken for an employee at 2 separate stores before, I'm now increasingly wary of strangers approaching me and have started trying to turn off my customer service mindset outside of work. I wander into the frozen foods aisle because I scream and practically shove myself into the freezer to find something specific. And that's where the Cantosaurus finds me. At first, it started with humming, with a couple of ahams prepped here and there. Weird, but everyone shops different. Then we launch into foot tapping, and I thought she was listening to music. Had to be a good song to tap your feet, right? My poor innocence. Excuse me? Crap was so forceful, I looked up. She was just glaring down at me. I took one earbud out to be polite, obviously not holding true to my mantra of do not engage. Yes? I've been ducking standing here for 15 minutes. Is this how you treat your customers? Can I get some goddamn help? I opened my mouth to respond, but didn't get a chance. She huffed and scrunched her face. Forget it. Clearly useless. Where's the unmemorable food item? Previous time this happened, I froze, so far past that stage now. I tried keeping it short and sweet, but I felt my temper rising. Don't know, don't work here. I shoved my earbud back in. I didn't even want ice cream anymore. Screw it. I didn't process the actual feeling, but I watched my headphones hit the floor. I was in shock. While I was still processing, she was letting me have it. Excuse me, are you actually lying to a customer? I don't care if you're on your break. I'm asking for your help. I genuinely thought for a brief moment, maybe I'm being punked. She was ridiculous. This had to be a joke. But then, seeing my headphones on the floor, I got slightly angry. I still hadn't picked them up. That was a mistake. Listen, I just fucking told you I don't work here. I'm not on a break. I'm not off. I do not work here. She didn't process anything I'd said. It was like my words were just background music, something to slide along the beat of her continuing rant. Even if you're on break, customers come first. You definitely shouldn't be listening to music while you're working. You're really going to risk getting in trouble for a little music. I was about to reply, maybe add a little sass and let her know that nothing had actually been playing, and I just never took them out of my ear. Before I had a chance, my mistake came back to haunt me. She looked down at my headphones, still laying on the floors between us. With a quick look at me, she stomped hard as crap over them. I heard the crack as the right side was now completely disconnected, little speaker just rolling on the floor. I couldn't find the words at first. Did you just ducking break my headphones? She gave me a nasty smirk. You're damn right. Let's see you ignore someone else now. I can't even really think of accurate things to describe my anger. You're going to give me money for those right now, like right ducking now. You had no right. There was so much more I could have said, but in my fury, not many other words could come to me. She got even angrier. You should have done your ducking job. I was the wrong one to test today, tramp. In an attempt to not act out my thoughts, I imagined testing my hand on the side of her face, and then she gave me a jam. Actually, you know what? I'm getting your manager, and he and I are going to have a nice long chat about his previous employee's work ethic. She started walking away as she pulled out her phone. Better start looking a new job. Oh, nah, tramp. I want my money for these headphones. I stomped after her as she loudly tried to hold a conversation. I'm in your store. This little tramp refused to help me. You need to fire her. She eventually turned around and saw me following her and proceeded to freak the duck out, screaming that I was stalking her and he needed to hurry. Thankfully, the manager found us with what I can only assume is echolocation and tried to help. He saw her first and started attempting to calm her. I stepped closer and he looked at me and told me he would be right with me. He just needed to take care of this family emergency and it would only take a moment. Unfortunately for both of us, she was still screaming and drawing attention. This is her, the girl who wouldn't help me. He gave me a glance and returned her expectant look with confusion. Her voice started rising, and I swear it could have broken glass. This girl, your employee, I waited for 30 minutes for her to acknowledge me. She was too busy listening to music to do her job. She doesn't work here. I've never seen her before in my life. His attention came back to me. Did you tell her you worked here? I told her multiple times that I didn't work here. She ducking snatched my headphones and then broke them. I want compensation for my damaged property, or I'm calling the cops. I doubted they would come for some petty grocery store squabble, but it was the only scary repercussion I could think of. Before she could open her mouth, he dug out his wallet and handed me $30. Is that enough? I'm so sorry. Please, anything you are going to get, half off. Please don't call the police. I took the money and thanked him, but I absolutely wasn't done with Contosaurus. I needed last word. Everyone in the ducking store is staring at you. You're a ducking nut job, lady. I had so much more I wanted to say. I wanted to point out in depth every single thing that I screamed that I wasn't an employee. From my sweatpants to my hair, I wanted to go through each and every clue that could have been. But after all that, I was mentally exhausted. I decided to go home. She was still raging and spouting her own crap-talking barrage. But I was ready to go, and I ignored it and walked out of the store. Got home, explained my crappy afternoon to my significant other, and thought up lots of snappy comebacks and alternate actions in the shower of that night. Didn't think I'd ever have a reason to use them, until I'd run into her again 3 days later. $30 for a set of headphones? That manager is very lucky you don't have more expensive tastes, considering how many people are walking around with over $200 headphones these days. The third story, What a Mess, Act 2, the sequel for the previous one. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd say gather around, but we wouldn't want to attract any attention to our lazy selves as we pretend not to work, well, anywhere. But here we are, Act 2 of the mess that was Cuntosaurus Rex. This time in surround sound and at a movie theater. This happened 3 to 4 days after our first tango in the frozen food aisle, and trust me, it was just as wild as the first encounter. To preface our tale, through some movie theater connections, a close friend got myself, herself, my significant other, and another friend tickets to a matinee. She had previously worked at a theater, and since she parted on good terms, the managers were okay with her sneaking some food and drinks for us. Movie theater friend will be Jay for story purposes. My other friend is Gina. Important to note, Gina and Jay look absolutely nothing alike. Now, the encounter. The movie had just ended. We were waiting around while Jay talked to some of her old coworkers and Gina just went to the bathroom. Eventually, Jay and my significant other decided they hungered and left to find food. I stayed behind to wait for Gina. Things were looking good. The day was shaping out to be a great one. Sun was bright. It was good weather for once. Gina walked out of the bathroom and headed towards me. She had almost reached me when I heard it. "Hey, you over there!" I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to look. I took a glance from the corner of my eye, and there was the Cuntosaurus. How could I forget a face that infuriating? And she walked right past me to speak to Gina. "Yeah, Theater 6 looks terrible. Someone spilled popcorn all over my seats and dropped their soda on the floor. You need to come clean it up before the movie starts." Gina gave me a furrowed brow. Are you talking to me? I don't work here. Cuntosaurus did not like being challenged. She grit her teeth, planted her feet, and squared her shoulders. She was ready. This time she'd win. "Excuse me? I saw you talking with other theater people. I just want you to clean it up before the movie starts." Gina slowly inched towards me, taking small steps around Rex to reach me. "I'm sorry, you might have me mistaken for my friend, but I really don't work here." The dinosaur huffed and groaned and sighed. "Seriously? It's just a quick cleanup. You'll be back on your break and gossiping in 10 minutes. Just clean it before I have to sit back down." She stamped her foot, and I decided to have my say. When else would I ever see her again to get my words out? I didn't even look at her, just started talking. "You're either blind or dumb. She doesn't work here. Go talk to them." I pointed towards the concession stand, where a small group of employees were watching the exchange with bated breath and a couple of bags of popcorn. She gave me a quick glance, rolling her eyes. "I'm not talking to you. Just tell your friend I need my aisle cleaned before I sit down for this." I'd been thinking about her since our first meeting. I had so many comebacks make their way to me in the shower, but only one stood out at that moment, and I went with it. Do you need a doctor? They don't fix stupid, but they will make you pretty enough that it will distract people when you speak. The dinosaur was quickly turning red. Her forehead started to grow an ugly shade of pink. "Excuse you!" She looked at Gina again, taking a full step forward and prompting us both to give each other a glance. "Where is your manager? Bring him here right now." I couldn't believe she only had those ears for decoration. Didn't listen to a single ducking thing. "Do it yourself. Come on." I grabbed Gina and started to push her in front of me. We almost made it when I felt a forceful, clawed hand on my arm. The dinosaur was still screaming. "I said, get the manager right now." I decided to match her screams. "Yo, get the dog off me. What is wrong with you?" I told Gina to get the manager as well. She ran to the counter and the audience scattered, save 2 or 3 employees who wanted to know what was happening. Good old dinosaur still hadn't released me from her grip. I wrenched my arms out of her grasp and realized that Contosaurus had not been graced with balance. She stumbled backwards twice and fell, directly on her butt, into a Wreck-It Ralph promotional cutout. The manager arrived just in time to watch her flail and plop onto the floor. The woman started to ask questions. Was she alright? Did she require medical attention? But none of that could be answered. As soon as Contosaurus saw the manager in the flesh, she started bawling. I stared at Gina, who had stayed near the counter with other employees, while I listened to the crybaby and her crocodile tears. All I was able to make between our sobs was employee, pushed, theater, and lying. The manager was still trying to calm her down. She stretched out a hand to help her up, but the dinosaur waved it away, still choking out cries of supposed anguish. "I'm sorry, what was that?" The tears were beginning to subside. "She pushed me," she gasped between my whimpers, pointing at me and then whimpering quickly to Gina. "And she refused to help me, your employee." The manager looked at Gina and then back down to the floor, a mask of confusion evident. "I'm sorry, who refused to help you?" Our entitled star seemed to realize she wasn't being clear and switched her tactics. She gestured to me again. "Her friend, that girl over there." The manager was giving glances between the dinosaur and Gina and still looked befuddled. She does not work here." And then silence. It was like a switch had been flipped. The sobbing actress on the floor was suddenly still, focusing on the manager and not looking anywhere else. She started to stutter, but then stopped. She looked back up to me. My presence seemed to give her the strength to struggle to her feet. "She assaulted me. She shoved me into the poster. You need to call the police." I just shook my head. "You can check the cameras." She grabbed me. The manager lady agreed and started motioning us to come with her to the back of the house. And suddenly, the dinosaur was no longer interested in checking the cameras. She just wanted to get back to her movie. She kept repeating, and Speed limped away. The manager lady apologized and offered us some free snacks, but we assured her everything was fine, and I gave everyone the first story of my run-in with the lovely Contosaurus. Laughs were had. I caught a glimpse of her leaving the theater from one of the side doors, clearly not up for walking past the front again to accuse another person of working there. And that was that. I wouldn't need to see her ever again, right? I was so sure of it. Until yesterday, at my actual job. But that, my friend, would be for tomorrow's video. That's it for today, fellow humans. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next time.